Okay, everyone, we are more or less on time, which makes a pleasant change during the second half of day one. So we're pushing on with our next fireside, this one with Gerald Pullen, Managing Director, Business Transformation at Concentrix Catalyst. We're talking delivering real benefits from AI adoption. A warm welcome for Gerald, please. Okay, well, we can definitely see that AI is a subject that is certainly top of people's agenda today. We've been covering it quite a lot already. But let's talk about the real benefits of AI adoption. Let's break that down for you. What are the headlines? What are the key benefits you see from your perspective?
Thanks, Neil. And it's really good to be here today to talk about this. And I'll be touching on some themes that have definitely already come up today. So main benefits, I'd probably, look, the news is rife, right, with AI use cases, and sectors are all leveraging different elements, particularly with the advent of generative AI. You don't need to look too far from healthcare to transportation, but the things I was thinking about for today really do fall into the benefits that AI has now for both the customer and the employee or colleague experience. And those are the ones where I think we're really seeing the gains. So from a customer service perspective, seeing significant benefits, both in terms of if you think about the advisors on the phone to customers today, gone are the days where they're wrestling with multiple systems, trying to figure out how to interrogate 6 different legacy systems where they're trying to have a authentic conversation and really listen to the customer. We have AI bringing that information to their fingertips, and also saving on some of that administration that used to follow after the call. And customers are experiencing it from the perspective of they're either able to self-serve in a channel that they want to self-serve in, or when they speak to a colleague on the phone, that colleague is much better equipped to be able to answer their question by having that automation of knowledge at their fingertips. And then I think internally, use cases across industry, you're looking at lots of different productivity gains as have been talked about through things like summarization. So things like even if you think about training packages for new starters, used to take maybe a week to pull together. We've certainly pulled them together in a matter of hours. And then if you look at things like RFP responses for proposals, from our perspective, instead of having to reinvent the wheel and take a week down to maybe 4 hours. So those are just some of the things from an internal perspective, but also that kind of crucial customer element where it's reduced the friction and effort for them, reduce the friction and effort for the employee, and then you end up with a much more genuine human interaction than perhaps we might have experienced in the call centres or in any customer service environment from even 5 years ago.
I have a really scientific way of judging what people are discussing at these events, and that is if and when I get stopped walking across the networking area and just have a chat with people, I often ask them what thing is jumping out at you. Now, 3-4 times today already, people have said to me, customer experience. Now, for you, is the customer experience element of this so crucial? Because it's the understanding of customers that is so important, but is also so difficult. Do you feel this is a bit of a game changer in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, it's for me, it's about the theme that's come up at least a couple of times today is back to what problem you're trying to solve and really understanding things from the customer's perspective. And I think approaching AI from a customer journey perspective is crucial. So what does the customer really want? What do they need? All the way through to fulfillment of that customer's goal. And where AI can massively assist with that is by kind of stitching together currently fragmented customer experiences. And that can take a whole raft of different lenses depending on whether it's insights you're talking about in terms of what experiences the customer really getting, whether it's preventing that situation that we've all had where we might have tried to solve our problem online, used a really crappy chatbot which reached us to a dead end, picked up the phone, the person we speak to, no knowledge of what we've been attempting to do to that point. We've also had situations where you might go into an in-person channel, into a branch or a store, and again, you have an issue there, you have to phone up, again fragmented because you're having to repeat yourself to that person. So I think AI gives us that solution to that long-standing challenge of the 360-degree customer view. It's feeling like customers, the company really knows the customer. The information, as I've touched on, is at the fingertips of that person serving the customer so that they can, meet them where they are in their journey as opposed to having to rewind them all the way to the start. So I think that's the real power for me, Neil, yeah.
Well, let's look at some of the challenges because, frankly, if this was easy, everyone would be doing it. But for you, what are the key challenges what companies face when they're trying to adopt AI? What are the good examples? What are the lessons? What are the pitfalls? Give us a roundup.
Yeah, so I think I'm not going to repeat what's been said today. I mean, our numbers suggest that 8 out of 10 deployments are failing at the moment because of data, security, and accuracy of the results that people are seeing from AI. And they can be addressed through some core foundations that you need to have in place, and Jason just brilliantly articulated what's needed from a data perspective. The really interesting dynamic, though, that's the one that's least explored at the moment, and I think is the challenge that we all need to face into as we go forward, is that from a kind of behavioural science perspective, right, our relationship, human to human, is just fundamentally different between a relationship between a human and a robot. So from a human-to-human perspective, we care how we're perceived by other human beings. We care how we're judged, we care how we're coming across, and also there's a human-to-human connection. So you could have a robot delivering this answer now, and hopefully you connect more with me than you would with a robot. And there's the studies that are really interesting, though, which comes to the challenge point, is the fact that because of that dynamic around the relationship being so very different, studies have proven recently that we are, as humans, much, much more prepared to lie when we know we're dealing with a robot than another human being. So there was a study earlier this year, for instance, where it was a controlled experiment between, essentially, you bought an item of clothing, and you could, if you lied, you could get the shipping fee back on that clothing. So the skin in the game was only about $10, I think, right? What happened was, when a human was dealing with a human agent, only about 12% of humans were prepared to lie. In that scenario, where they were dealing with a robot or an AI-driven solution, that number jumped to 62%. So we have the fundamental challenge on dynamic is just that one around, it's not about the tech, it's about how we deploy AI within that customer experience and what guardrails do we want to have in place.
That's a fascinating example, absolutely. Obviously, this is a FinTech event, so let's focus in a little bit on that. From your experience, what are the biggest gains been from AI adoption, particularly in more of the FinTech and SureTech space? Yeah,
look, I think a lot of them have come through today. So the ones that we're seeing the most are, and it was the last answer to the previous section, it's very much around those internal productivity-driven improvements, where you have a human in the loop to control the output of the AI model, and that's driving, across, if I look at different use cases, I've seen it used brilliantly in, say, complaint handling, where at the moment, if a customer's got a complaint about a service requiring a written response, somebody might be pulling together a response from like different templates and putting it into one, but there's still effort required there. Whereas now, I've seen one FinTech company essentially ingest the customer problem, use the LLM to generate the response, and then the expertise is really just reviewing that response for accuracy. So that's a really, really, really good one. Most of the others I've seen are around, or the ones we've supported the implementation of, is every company, FinTech or otherwise, they'll have a set of policies, right? And every company will need their people to adhere to those policies, but often it's about how do I get to that bit of the policy quickly to enable me to respond compliantly. So it's the great gains of knowledge management solutions wrapped over that policy body of text so that you can type in a natural language request and get the specific part of that policy back straight away rather than having to trawl through lots of documents. So that's that one. Other one would be quality assurance. So historically, the standard was, once somebody's reached a certain level of competency, we'll check 3 out of 100, ignoring the other 97. Whereas now, obviously, the advent of AI, the ability to do 100% QA is there. There's no gaps. You can look at specific moments within call, and you've also got that kind of real-time coaching as well to say, you haven't mentioned that piece yet. You really need to include it. So that's a few examples I would leverage, Neil.
Okay, well, I've got plenty more questions, which I know I haven't got time to fit in. I will go to the room, though. Any questions immediately from the room, talking about AI? We do have one there.
Thank you so much for so interesting examples of using AI in our work. The question is, in terms of the generating of suspicious activity reports in the system, I have seen several systems that already generate these SARs using AI. I understand that for iSARs, it's completely fine, so they can see the patterns and they can identify based on the red flags and everything that you have in. However, any SAR that we submit for the NCA, they are subjective, right? It depends on your experience and your understanding of what you consider suspicious. Do you think that it should be replaced by AI, or it can be replaced by AI in legal and ethical considerations?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think I would say to that I think there's an opportunity at the moment with the maturity of where we're at with AI. I would say a process like SARS, I would always have a human in the loop. So I would say that a combination of an AI solution, or it could even be, back to the conversation we had today, a more basic form of automation I've seen used really effective for SARS with no need for the investment you need in AI to achieve a similar outcome, using things like RPA and other forms of intelligent automation. But I don't see, I think there's definitely a route forward to go, start with the journey, look at the elements that could be automated, what's the best automation solution for them, but then from a making sure the outcome's correct perspective at this stage, having that human in the loop at the end, the expert, just to go, right, is that correct? Is there anything that could be done differently? Feed that learning back into the automation that you've done. That happy to follow up kind of offline if that didn't quite cover it.
Thank you. We've got time for one more. And if we keep this relatively brief, I'd be very grateful.
Thank you very much. Israel Garcia, from Cedar Rose, actually, business intelligence provider. Is Jason in the previous session actually was talking a little bit about synthesizing data, how unreliable, how biased it is. I'm actually wondering if data, even the real data, is biased by itself. Is it not more reliable, the synthesized data than the real data?
I think it depends how that data is being composed and who's been involved in the composition. So any data that's touched by a human is going to have an element of bias, right? And I think the important thing, even with synthesized data, is having, it comes back to even what's the team producing that? Is that team diverse? Has it got diversity in terms of not only kind of typical male-female, but diversity in terms of age, thought, experience, etc., to feed in? Because otherwise, as we've seen with some examples, the data set will reflect the team that are essentially producing it.
So actually, can I carry on a follow-up?
If I can just get the mic to you, if we keep this relatively quick, we're right out of time.
Very, very quickly, it's just a personal taking here, it's like, do you give priority to real or synthesized data?
I would always give priority to real.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Afraid we are going to have to leave that there. But a thank you to Gerald Pullen from Concentrix Catalyst. Thank you.
Thanks.